Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare and ProodianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to help educate you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality disease-free years as possible. Thanks for joining me this week, and as we come off a show where we discussed functional medicine and created a new paradigm, if you will, of what, in my opinion, doctors today and healthcare practitioners today need to start focusing on, and that was the complete you, looking at you from an individual perspective, not one shoe size fits all, and how our various systems inside of our body work together. And functional medicine requires a clinician to be empathetic, to build a relationship with you. It is your health, and we talked about you becoming a healthcare consumer. Hopefully you made some notes in your health journal. Remember, we started this year. If you guys are catching up, I wanted you to go out and buy a journal and start writing things down. Part of this show is about education. This is an educational show. And if we don't write them down and read them, to become more literate in a subject matter, if we become more literate and more knowledgeable, hopefully that leads to passion, and passion allows us to make change, and real change to our families and our communities, so that the chronic illness epidemic that we're facing right now is being handled and addressed straight up by us local people in our schools and in our communities. So last week I made a mistake. I gave you the wrong website address to functional medicine. The address to functional medicine is actually www.functionalmedicine.org. So that's functionalmedicine.org. And what that is, if you go there and plug into part of that website in a zip code, you could put your zip code in, you could find a functional medicine practitioner close to your house. This type of training and this to get a better understanding of the way functional medicine practitioners think, that website is a great resource for you. When I built this show, and if you go to Tandem Radio and read about the By Design program, you'll read in through the content that I wrote for the little place they give me on Tandem Radio, that the show is going to be centered and has been centered around 8 fundamental principles, and that is detoxification, epigenetics, immunity, inflammation, digestion, structure, stress, and energy. Now, over the last 70 shows or so, we've been discussing all parts of this, which is called the pyramid of health. And if you want to see a picture of the pyramid of health, go to naturalhealthcarecenter.com, which is my website, and you'll see this illustration that I wrote about 2 years ago and I published a couple of years ago, and I use in all of the presentations that I give. So today's show, what we're going to be moving into is a couple of different things. A week ago, I blog every Wednesday at drproodian.com, and my last blog got a lot of attention. If you go back a couple of blogs, you'll see I blogged about the Super Bowl, or I blogged in general about athletics, sports, and our society speaking out both corners of their mouth. I was pretty sick and tired of watching out of one corner of the mouth. They're telling us during the Super Bowl that play 60, get our kids outside and play for 60 minutes. And in the next commercial, they're selling me, a Happy Meal. As a father of 5, it's not fun and games to me, and taking care of, thousands of patients for the last 20 years, seeing the effect of the types of foods and drinks that people have been pouring into themselves over the last 40 or 50 years, we're paying for it. We're paying for it. That 70% of the cost of healthcare is due to chronic illness, most of which is man-made. So I blogged on this. If you want to go there and read down and put a comment online, I'd appreciate it. I got some very favorable comments, primarily from women, which is cool because women are the foundation of the home. They're raising children, and I think that the time has come for all of us to put our foot down in our schools and in our organizations and say, it's not okay to be consuming this poison. And that's exactly what it is. It's poison. And it's a long-term poison, meaning it's not like eating arsenic and dying the moment you eat the arsenic, but it is a type of toxic. Toxicity in our culture is rampant. So functional medicine and the show is really designed about being a very serious show. This is a serious subject matter and allowing you guys to create hopefully knowledge and passion to make changes in your own world, in your own organizations. So I wanted to get that little bit of house cleaning off my plate, and I can't help it. I have a radio show, so I have to comment on the Bill Nye and Mr. Ham, the debate that was held online, which I couldn't wait for. This is right up my alley. Just a couple of comments. I'm not here to critique the debate as to who won or who lost, but those of us who were out there that watched the debate, or if you haven't seen it, I would tell you to go online and check it out. It was basically a debate on whether creation or evolution, who is right. My 2 cents on the design piece was what was missing from this debate, guys, was some physics, some submolecular physics, particularly in the fact that the part that was not addressed, the subject matter that was not addressed, was how do you create highly complex organisms that from random? How can you create the human cell, which is highly complex and highly organized, randomly, from a big bang to basically billions and billions of years, that somehow all of these parts found themselves to work in one universal, organized, methodical methodology to give us human life. That's number one. And the other rule of physics and science is how do you create something out of nothing? Those 2 points. How do you create something out of nothing, and how do you create highly organized structures out of disorganization were not discussed. And or if they were, I kind of didn't get, to me, it wasn't addressed specifically enough. Bill Nye, living in the physical world, didn't venture off really into this part of science, and I thought that was really overlooked. So if that's something that you're interested in, you may want to go off and read on that, because that is the basis of why creation is real and why I believe in creation and why I believe in Genesis. It is because of these physical yet submolecular biology. When you get into the submolecular place, that these are things that you can't see. How from a cellular or a atom molecular part of our existence here, that matter came to be. So that was my 2 cents on the debate. I really felt as though a little bit more could have come out of it. The show is based on Luke 1:37, for with God nothing is impossible. So now with that as our backdrop for today, let's take Luke 1:37 and let's talk about expectations. I don't know if in your life, guys, you find that many times systems break down, organizations break down, relationships break down, marriages break down because of false expectations or expectations that were not thoroughly discussed. Being the father of 5 and also owning a business that employs about 20 people, creating real live expectations in these relationships that I keep as a Christian father and a Christian business owner are very important to me. One of the expectations, one of the things that I find in clinical practice, and this is the subject of today's show, is pain. I find that people really don't have an understanding of pain, why we have pain, what to do for the pain, and have a false expectation that once the pain is gone, they're done with ever having to deal with it again. And after 20 years of being a sports chiropractor as well as a nutritionist in practice, I see physical pain, I see nutritional pain, and I also see psychological pain every day in practice. Physical pain is generally an easier topic to discuss. Car accident, shoveling snow, fall down the stairs, or what's called macro traumas, football game, sports injury, okay? The kind of physical pain that's less understood is something called micro trauma. A guy who sits on his wallet driving a truck for 20 years who develops low back pain, someone who gains a lot of abdominal weight, putting pressure on the low back and the sciatic nerve over a period of time. Someone who is engaged in football and then skiing and has a lot of micro traumas throughout their life end up with chronic pain. Pregnancy and the transformation that the female body goes through pre and post-pregnancy. Those are called micro traumas. So that's the physical aspect of pain, which we're going to be taking a look at. And we're going to be setting some real expectations. Some expectations in your life. And first, I'm going to get into why we have pain. So that's the physical. Let's go to nutritional. I shared with you many shows ago that the primary type of food that Americans are eating, 90% of the American food budget is spent on inflammatory food. So if we're eating inflammation, I don't care how pretty the box is that you buy the food. I don't care how much money was spent on marketing me that product during the Super Bowl. Okay, that product being an inflammatory food can cause inflammation in my body. And if you haven't noticed, inflammation causes pain. So food biochemistry can have a direct correlation to the pain that you're experiencing in the physical side of your body. Okay, so that's the nutrition. So we have physical, we have nutritional, and then finally psychological pain. Stress, anxiety, depression, relationships, our emotional health, our mental health. This, again, has a direct, not an indirect. Studies show there is a direct correlation between our psychological mental state and the way we feel, our physical pain. So let's think about those three buckets, and let's start the show by creating some expectations. Well, why do we have pain? And I was doing a Bible study, my wife and my kids just yesterday. We were talking about this. I told them what the topic of my show was, and I said, what was revealed to me with some prayer and talking to my kids was that in Genesis, when Adam and Eve take place, and here we are in the garden, and what does God say to Adam and Eve after sin? He says, women will have pain through childbirth, and men will have pain through toil or work. And I found it was the first time that it really dawned on me that here in the garden, pain is discussed. Physical pain is discussed as a byproduct of sin. And so I sat back and I said, wow, prior to sin, there was no pain. So our physical being by design, okay, you and I, let's set our expectations, because I'm going to do a few shows on this, but I want us to go on this journey of having real expectations, not false expectations, as to why we have physical, nutritional, and psychological pain, where it came from, and we could go back to Genesis and see that's where it came from. And if we read Genesis through Revelation, there's a whole lot of pain in those 66 books. No more so than the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And, I go back to the movie that Mel Gibson made on this, and it was the first time I think that the visual illustration of how painful crucifixion is, that it's not this very kind of an event where you die peacefully. That it is a horrific, painful experience. So, and when we look at the physical being, and the physical being having the ability, having the ability to go through physical pain, our expectations are that we're going to have it in our lifetime. I pray no one has it to the extent of crucifixion. I pray that I got an email this week from a friend of mine whose grandfather passed away. He was 96 years old. He woke up, had his breakfast, sat down to read his Bible in his chair, fell asleep, and passed away. And my friend had said to me, may we all go so peacefully and painless. And yeah, I agree. So here we have illustrations of pain, physical, nutritional, psychological. We have to set our expectations. We understand where this pain comes from. And now as we embark in this wellness lifestyle, we could understand that pain is part of our lives. pain has been part of our lives, and to address it means that we have to have knowledge, understanding, literacy to A, avoid pain, and there are real ways we could do that, and B, what to do when we get the pain. And there are that conversation is pretty broad, but we're going to have it in the next couple of weeks. So I just wanted to set you up today for the fact that A, we're going to set expectations, B, we understand that there's physical, nutritional, and psychological pain. C, it came from Genesis. So we know why we have this, and there are some illustrations in the Bible, many of them, which show us that pain has been a real live thing for a long time, and that the fact that we live in a fallen world is the reason why it's here. So today's show, not a whole lot of substance as opposed to just preparing you for a very involved conversation, because guys, if there's one thing I see in clinical practice, more so than anything, it is pain. Anyone in practice sees people coming in with neck pain, back pain, elbow pain, radicular pain, numbness, tingling, and it needs to be understood. So let's go take it apart. Let's spend the next couple of weeks really understanding that for with God, nothing is impossible. He can make change in our life, and hopefully by looking at ourselves as a individual that has been gifted this miracle of life, not the Bill Nye evolution example, and knowing that the creative people during the Super Bowl want to sell us a whole bunch of pain, let's circle back to the very reason why I created this show, and hopefully you enjoy it, and that we're going to take a literal stance on this, take it apart, and understand it. Thank you for listening to me, Dr. James Proodian, in the By Design radio program. If you'd like more information on me, please go to ProodianHealthcare.com and submit any questions, and also go to drproodian.com and please become a blog subscriber. Have a blessed week, and I'll talk to you next week.